Insane, you make me crazy, insane, that's how I feel, insane, you make me crazy, insane, that's how I feel.
Hey guys, what's up? Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of Dysfunction Junction. For those of you listening for the first time, I'm your host, Kim, and you are listening to episode 10. Can you believe it? We have made it to episode 10. I cannot believe it. I hope everybody had a great week. My week was meh. You know, as good as it can get for a woman with 5 kids and a full-time job and a full-time husband and a bunch of animals, you know. I hope everyone had a wonderful Easter. Mine was good. We ended up going out to dinner this year, which I'm not used to at all. Normally we have dinner here, but we went out to dinner this year and it went fine. It was actually really nice. I didn't have to cook anything. I didn't have to clean anything. And it went really, really well. I think part of the reason why it went well is because we left Caden here. I know I've talked about recently, I'm thinking that he may be on the spectrum, or at the very least have a sensory issue because he's just on overload lately. So we decided at church, after he had like his third little meltdown the last one at church, but of the morning, we decided, let's just not bring him to dinner. Jared didn't want to go anyway. Jared didn't even want to be at church. So we decided that we'd just go take him home, grab Caden a Happy Meal. We'll pick up Jared something to eat at the restaurant, and then we'll just, bring him home. And that worked out well. It was fine. Everyone was happy. I was happy. They were happy. And Piper and Brody were just happy to be, in a big restaurant with other people. And, we don't take them out much, We keep them home in little cages. Can't trust them. Anyway, speaking of Easter and the Easter Bunny, last week I had mentioned that Piper had been hinting about the Easter Bunny not being real and how I was probably going to have to tell her sooner rather than later. And sooner has happened a lot sooner than I thought. I mean, my poor baby, she's been going through so much lately, and it's so hard to be a girl at her age. Actually, it's hard to be a girl at any age, but this age is particularly tough. So, and women listening, you know what I'm talking about. Men listening, this is the age when most girls become, women. And the other day, actually, and I think I've said this on here before, but for, anyone who's listening for the first time, she actually came to me not too long ago and said, I do not know what is wrong with me. I feel like I'm going crazy. 1 minute I'm happy, the next minute I'm sad. I don't know what's going on with me. I feel like I'm going crazy. And of course, right then I knew, oh man, oh God, she's going to be a woman soon. And TBH, it does kind of feel like you're going crazy. I mean, your hormones are all over the place. It's insane. And Piper can be pretty intense as it is. So we're all pretty terrified of what's going to come. What's going to happen. Seriously. Jared said that he's moving to Nana's house when it happens. And quite frankly, I think we'll all be moving to Nana's house when this happens. I mean, like I said before, she's a butthead now. She's just super intense, and I think it's going to just put her way over the top. Anyway, but because she's been feeling so cray-cray lately, she's been acting out a lot. And at first, I was trying to cut her a little bit of slack because she didn't feel well. And I've always been that way with my kids. I get it. You're a human being. You're probably going to get a little, loud or a little mouthy, and that's fine. But the minute you start getting disrespectful, then I have a problem. And that's what was happening. She was starting to get rude, starting to get a little, mouthy, crossing that line. So, I had to put my foot down. So she had already lost every electronic that she's, ever had. And she was still acting out. It was like she didn't even care that she'd been punished. She was just so angry with the world that she didn't care about anything. So one night after the littles had fallen asleep, I sat her down and I asked her, what's going on? And of course she didn't know. But my genius, the genius that I am, says to her, are you angry because there isn't an Easter bunny? Now, on more than one occasion this week, she has made comments regarding the Easter bunny that got me thinking that she believed he wasn't real. For instance, if we said something to the boys like, oh, wow, did the Easter bunny bring that to you? She would say, the alleged Easter bunny. She even flat out said, I know the Easter bunny didn't bring this to me. And when I would ask her to repeat what she said, she wouldn't. It was like she was trying to get me to slip up. I mean, that is how she found out about the tooth fairy. Okay, so it was her last tooth. And she came to me and she said, Mom, the tooth fairy didn't come last night. And normally when that happened, and yes, it happened a lot, I would say, are you sure? You should probably double check it. I mean, maybe it fell on the side of your bed. You know how much you move around at night. And when she wasn't looking, I'd run in and shove $1 in between the mattress and the wall. Or the next night, I would leave a tiny little note from the tooth fairy apologizing for not showing up. I have an excuse like, she got lost or her bag was too heavy and she had to go home and empty her bag. And to be frank, I've always been a really crappy tooth fairy. I just have been. I mean, I would fall asleep all the time. I wouldn't have any money. It was ridiculous. I couldn't deal with it. It was terrible. But this time I said, oh, crap. So it was then, it was then that she's like, Mom, tell me the truth. Is the tooth fairy real? And I guess I kind of gave her a funny look and she burst into tears. She was like, oh my God, she isn't real? And I, of course, look there like a deer caught in the headlights. She's like, well, then who takes the teeth? And again, I gave her a weird smile. And she's like, you? Why would you do that? She goes, what do you do with the teeth? I said, I throw them away. She says, why? I said, what do you mean, why? What do you think I'm going to do with them? I said, that's the only part of your mouth that I have control of. Of course I'm throwing them away. What are you, nuts? Anyway, so we're sitting there. I'm trying to get her to open up. And I said again, is that why you're mad? And she just kind of shrugged her shoulders at me. And she was like, I don't know why I'm mad. But I do keep thinking about, the Easter bunny. And she's like, there are some things that Jared had said and some things that she had seen that made her think that the Easter bunny wasn't real. So when I asked her what it was, one of the things she said was that she saw some of the things that she had gotten from the Easter bunny in my room. Well, plus Jared had said something like, and she had said something, I don't know about what, but she was like, shh, or Jared said, shh, don't say anything. The boys still believe, So first of all, she wouldn't have seen that stuff in my room if she'd stay out of my room. How many times do I have to say, stay out of my room? The things that Piper has seen in my room, in my drawers, she will be in counseling for the rest of her life. And she only has herself to blame. That's number one. Number two, I could have said, don't listen to Jared. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's Jared. But I've said this before. She's getting to that age that if I don't tell her, someone else will. And she's going through enough at school with those little biatches that she goes to school with, that's the last thing she needs is to get crap from them because she still believes. So I looked at her, as lovingly as I could. And I said, look, babe, you're getting old enough to know this, but, you're right. The Easter Bunny, he's not real. And oh my God, her eyes filled up. I've never seen eyes fill up so quickly with tears in my life. And she let out a cry that I have never, ever heard from my kids before. I think I had literally just broken her heart into a million pieces. And at that moment, I wanted to give her back everything that we had taken away from her from being punished. Everything. I felt so terrible. I mean, I looked at my husband. She was just, crying like her whole body was just shaking. It was horrible. And I looked at my husband and I said, I feel so terrible. I cannot believe she is this upset. Then my even dumber husband says, yeah, I know. I don't even remember Noah and Jared being this upset about the Easter Bunny or Santa. And then she stopped crying immediately. And she looked at me and she says, wait, what? Santa isn't real either? So I was so shocked. I didn't know what to say. I had no words, nothing. And I just gave her that same uncomfortable smile when I told her about the tooth fairy. And she looked at me and she said, I cannot believe this. You guys have ruined my life. You have taken the magic out of Christmas. I will never feel the same about Christmas again. She was like, how could you do this? Why do parents do this to their kids if they know that they're just going to have to tell them eventually and know that it's going to crush them? Why would you do that? And then I started crying. And I said, I don't know why we do it. My mom did it to me, and her mom did it to her, and I don't know. I just don't know why. It's just terrible. It's so terrible. And she says, the only thing that I can think of now is that one day you're going to have to tell Caden and Brody, and it's going to break their hearts. And I looked at her and I said, that's right. And you better keep your mouth shut until then, because your dad and I have a deal. He gets Caden and I get Brody, and you're not taking that away from us. That's right. It's the only good thing I have to look forward to in my life is ripping the dreams away from the last two kids in the house. So you're going to keep your mouth shut, lady. Anyway, she was so devastated. I don't. She's still talking about it. She's still talking about it. She won't let it go. She's like, I will never think of Christmas the same again. Nothing will ever be the same in my life again. She literally said, and I know this sounds like I'm making it up, but I'm not. She has literally said my entire childhood has been a lie. You have lied to me my entire childhood. I don't know what I can believe from you anymore. Okay. How do you respond to that? I mean, think about it. I mean, she's kind of right. Why do we do that? Why do we tell kids about this imaginary tooth fairy? First of all, I would like to know who made this up, because it is kind of weird that some crazy chick would break into your window and steal your teeth. For what? What is she doing with them? What does she do? What is the point of taking the teeth? I just don't get it. So I'm not really sure who came up with that story of that some chick crawls in through your window, takes your teeth, and leaves you money. I mean, really. There are other things I could collect other than teeth for money. And then who decided teeth were valuable anyway? Who thought that? I just don't understand why. Who thought? I've got to look this up. I've got to look up who invented the tooth fairy. And again, what about the Easter Bunny? I mean, I just don't understand why someone would make up, and I think I've looked this up too, about the Easter Bunny. But I mean, why would a giant bunny bring you Easter eggs and chocolate? I still don't understand that concept either, and I did a show about it. I still don't get it. Let's look up the Tooth Fairy. Story behind the Tooth. Story behind the Tooth Fairy. Boom. Let's look it up. So the history of the Tooth Fairy. It originated in Northern Europe. It doesn't really say anything. The brief history of the Tooth Fairy. I don't know. Let's see. It doesn't really give a whole lot of information. This is the real story behind the Tooth Fairy. I should have done this a lot sooner. Anyway, it hasn't been around long. The idea of a fairy taking children's teeth didn't come to be until the early 1900s. In 1927, Esther Watkins Arnold wrote an 8-page mini play about the Tooth Fairy for kids. This is the first written record of the fairy, so she's not even 100 years old. She was inspired by other tooth traditions, namely the tooth mouse. This tradition became popular from Mexico to New Zealand, and it is one of the world's most widespread. But why a mouse? There's actually a very simple explanation. Mice have strong teeth. Children leave their teeth for the tooth mouse in hopes that they will get teeth just as strong as his. But in America, people believed a magical fairy would be more comforting to kids who were a little thrown off by the fact that they were losing parts of their body. And we were sure that money didn't hurt either. Yeah, still don't get it. Still tells me nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, I mean, she's right. I mean, why would we do that? I just don't get it. I do not know why we would tell kids these, fairy tales when we just have to crush their little spirits. And maybe that's the whole point. Maybe this isn't for the kids. Maybe it's for the parents so that they can have the joy of knowing that someday you are going to crush that child's spirits. Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. It just depends on how you're feeling that day and how much of a turd that kid is. Who knows? Just who knows? Nobody knows. I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. But in all of this drama, apparently there was a day in April recently called Autism-Awareness Day. And somehow I was not aware of this. When you have a crap ton of kids and when a couple of those crap ton have issues, one of them autism, you don't learn stuff. And BT dubs, if it's not on Nickelodeon or the Disney Channel, I'm not aware of nothing. Okay? So, it got me curious. What else am I not aware of? So I did just a little bit of digging about a couple questions that I had, and just to make myself a little more aware. And I thought that I would share it to you because being aware of autism is very, very important. And it is something that's close to my heart. So one question that I did have, and to be quite honest, there's not a lot of fun facts about autism. Not like the Easter Bunny or the Tooth Fairy or Santa Claus or St. Patrick's Day. But I did want to know about a couple things. So one of the things was the puzzle piece. I wanted to know, where that came from and what that was about. And actually, I did find out, one thing in particular about the puzzle piece, and that hasn't been around too long either. And that, hold on, I have it right here. That actually the origin of the puzzle piece, and I'll have a couple of these links that I've mentioned in the show. I should probably go back and find that one about the Tooth Fairy in my show notes. So if you want to take a peek at that, you can visit my website at dfpodcast.com. I'll have the show notes there and the links. But the origin of the puzzle piece goes back to 1963 and was created by a guy called Gerald Gasson, Gasson, and he was a parent and board member for the National Autistic Society, which is formerly the Society for Autistic Children in London. And the board believed at that time that autistic people suffered from a very puzzling, quote unquote, condition. So they adopted the logo because it didn't look like any other image used for charitable or commercial use. So back then, it included the puzzle piece with an image of a weeping child. And the weeping child was used as a reminder that autistic people suffer from their condition. So, but now I believe the puzzle piece has other puzzle pieces in it, which I prefer than to see a child weeping in a puzzle piece. So that's too sad for me. I don't like that. So anyway, I also found out that another idea, it's basically the same thing. It's just another site that I found that the idea behind the puzzle piece is to represent the complexity of autism spectrum disorders. And also, as every puzzle piece is different in some way, they represent the diversity of every individual affected by autism. This is what the autism puzzle piece looks like now. And it says that lastly, the bright colors of the ribbon signify hope. Hope that through increased awareness, early intervention, and appropriate treatments, all people with autism will be able to lead happier, fuller, more complete lives and improve their daily living skills. I mean, the autism spectrum is so large. I mean, you have very high functioning people with autism and very low functioning people with autism. It's very, very large. So let's see. There was something else I was going with that, but I have ADHD. Do they have a ribbon for ADHD? Do they have ADHD Awareness Day? I need to look into that. Because there was something I was going to say about that. What I was going to say is that I think a lot of people with autism live full, complete lives, even without, the puzzle piece. But like I said, I don't know. My brain's going a mile a minute here. So then I was curious about why the color blue, because blue is the color for autism awareness. And there are a bunch of places that actually light up blue for Autism Awareness Day. And I'll put a link too in my the show notes that you can go and look. There's a bunch of places. It's like the White House, Niagara Falls. There is Empire State Building, and there's even a couple of places, some castles and all kinds of really cool places. I'll put that in there. And then I was trying to find why they have it in April, and there's really nothing. No, I couldn't find any reason why they have it in April. So if you can figure it out, please let me know. Drop me a line. Tell me on Twitter or Facebook or anything, just anywhere that you follow me, and let me know. And if I've missed anything so did I say when autism? Oh, yes, April 2nd, Autism-Awareness Day. So now I got to put that on my calendar. I need to celebrate it because it is a really big deal. And if you find it in your heart and you want to donate to autism awareness, there are plenty of sites out there that you can go to make a donation. Let's see. What else? I think that's all I have to say. What? That's all I have to say. I can't believe it. I guess it is. I've been talking for 25 minutes. Anyway, I really hope that you guys liked my 10th show. I wanted to do something bigger, but that just didn't work out. But maybe next time, maybe on my 20th show, we'll do something really cool. If I still have all you biatches listening. Let's see. So if, please visit me. I have all kinds of, all my social media sites. You can visit me on my website, which is www.dfpodcast.com. That's D as in dog, F as in Frank, podcast. You can check me out on Facebook. That is facebook.com/dysfunkjunk7. And of course, on our Facebook group page at facebook.com/groups/DF podcast. If you prefer Twitter, you can find us there at twitter.com/dysfunkjunkmom. And for all my Instagram peeps, you can look us up at instagram.com/dysfunkjunk7. And finally, if you find it in your heart and you like to donate $1 for me to get a coffee, remember, this is free for you, but not free for me. You can check me out at patreon.com. There is a lot of exclusive content there that you can only get if you're a patron. And of course, you can, reach me on my website, www.dfpodcast.com. And if you like the show, please share this with people. This show is really important to me. I really, really love it. It's very important for me to be able to laugh at myself, to have people laugh at me, to not take, how can I say this? It's important to take motherhood seriously, but at the same time, not so seriously. And that to remember that, every mother is different. Every parent is different. Every child is different. What is good for one family may not work for another. And to, not judge other parents. We don't know what's going on in the background. We don't know what they live. We don't know, what their child's going through. And I'm going to give you a story real quick. I was going to close, but something popped into my head. This morning, we went into town because we had to, just go on some errands, and we stopped at our local Cumberland Farms, which is where I get my coffee because I'm poor. I do not go to Dunkin' Donuts, people, I'm telling you. But there was a little girl that was in front of us in line, and she had a couple of she was younger than Piper. She had to be like 8 years old, and she had a bunch of stuff in her hands, and I just happened to catch her, as she turned. I just happened to catch her. And as she turned, just turned her head, and she had a little tear on her cheek, and her face was very red, and she was obviously crying. And I asked her, "Are you okay?" And she shook her head yes. I said, "Are you sure?" And she shook her head yes again. And so we continually to wait our turn, and then she gets up to the counter, and then all of a sudden this woman comes around the corner, and I heard the little girl say, "I wanted to do this by myself." So the woman said, "Okay," and she kind of walked away and stood off in a corner. And the little girl put her stuff up on the counter, and the cashier rung her up, and then she told her however much money it was, and the little girl stopped and was kind of unsure what to do. And she reached in her pocket and she pulled out a debit card. And actually, it wasn't a debit card. It was like a food stamp card. And the little girl looked at it, and she looked at the woman in the corner. And then she looked at the woman at the cashier. And then she looked at the woman again in the corner. And that woman came over and helped her, showed her what to do with the card. And so they paid for their things. They bagged them up, and she left. Now, when I got to the cashier said, that little girl has been here for a half an hour by herself. And at first, I have to be quite honest, when I first saw this little girl in the store, she had her coat on, she had her PJ pants on, and she was crying. She looked like she had been crying when we were in line. And the first thought that came to my mind was, I wonder if this little girl was forced to come to this store by herself. And she's upset and she's crying. I immediately thought something negative. And the lady at the cash register thought the same thing. She goes, that little girl's been here for a half an hour by herself. She goes, I don't think that's cool at all. And I'm like, no, I don't either. That's terrible. So when we got in the car, I was explaining to my husband what happened. And he says, maybe her mother was teaching her a lesson. And I said, you know what? She very well could have been trying to teach her a lesson. Now, thinking of my own kids, I can hear them saying, I want to do it myself. I want to do it myself. And maybe she was giving her mother a hard time for most of the morning. Her mother finally said, fine, go do it by yourself. We don't know. I mean, that girl might have been in the store by herself, but we don't know. I don't know if her mother was standing outside watching her the entire time. We don't know that. We don't know if the little girl went to the store by herself or if the mother followed close behind her. We don't know. But when I saw the little girl leaving, as we were driving, I saw I don't know if this was her mother or a neighbor. I don't know who it was, but I saw them walking back to the apartment together. The little girl was on a bike. The woman was walking, and I don't know. I just don't know what's going on. The woman was walking. She looked like they were laughing and talking and like everything was really friendly. And for a minute, I had to stop and say to myself, I'm judging this family and that's not cool. We don't know. I have no idea what happened with this little girl. And it very well could have been a negative situation. I don't know. I mean, it's possible the little girl could have been there alone by herself for a half an hour. And then maybe the woman finally just woke up and realized her kid was gone. I don't know. But we just need to be aware is that we don't know how other people live. We don't know what's going on. We have no idea. We're just automatically assuming that this girl was left here in the store, by herself. I assume that, maybe she's being abused or forced to do something she didn't want to do. And it could have been the exact opposite. It could have been the mother showing her, see, it's not as easy as you think. It wasn't as easy as you thought it was going to be to just go to the store, pay for the food, or maybe she was just being a bee. Who knows? I don't know. And I think about that sometimes when I was in the store with Piper and she's asking me, can I have this? No. Can I have this? No. Can I have this? No. People might think that that lady's being a bitch. Why is she, all her daughter did is ask her one thing. All you heard her was ask me for one thing. You didn't hear her ask me the 15 other times before that. And you don't know what happened on the car ride to the store. And you don't know what happened in the house before you got in the car. We don't know. And we have to remember that. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't intervene if we see a child being hurt or abused or spoken to nastily. I'm not saying that. Because, of course, there are going to be situations where you have to intervene and you can't just assume something else is going on. But I think most of the time, we as parents are just doing the best we can. And we're human beings. And we need to remember that. And we shouldn't judge other parents for how they're disciplining their kids. And I am a victim of that as well. Again, I'm not going to sit around and if they're degrading their child and screaming at them and calling them every name under the sun, I can't honestly say that I'm not going to jump on that person's back and scratch their eyeballs out. But if they're being firm with their child, or if they're teaching their child a lesson, there must be something behind it. So what's good for one child is not always good for the other child. Okay, I've rambled on enough, I guess. Sorry about that. I just, like I said, I love this podcast. I think it's very important for me. It's a good place for me to, say all the things that I want to say. And I hope that I can reach one person and remind them that you do not have to be a perfect parent to raise a great kid. Because I am far from perfect, but I do have really great kids. Even though I've ruined their lives and crushed their dreams and given them no hope at all, they're still great kids. All right, guys. Thanks again for listening. I hope you guys all have a great week. Again, share me with your friends. Share me with the people that are not your friends. Drop me a line. Let me know what you think. Tell me how I can improve. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. But there was something else clever I was going to say, but I lost it. I don't know. It's gone. Anyway, I'm going to look up ADHD Awareness Month. They've got to have one of those. And if not, I'm creating one, damn it. Because I need a day. And I need a month. I need a whole month for ADHD. It's my month. Or maybe I'll just have a mom awareness month. That would be good.
Insane. You make me crazy. Make me crazy. Insane. That's how I feel. That's how I feel. Insane. You make me crazy. Make me crazy. Insane. That's how I feel. That's how I feel.